the Trump spectacle at the World Cup was something that was just, it was hard to watch, and you knew it was coming, and it was brutal. But something that was also difficult were the deaths of these service members. Yep. And that photograph of 19-year-old Elizabeth Gonzalez just hit me. And I was transported back to a time, which I'm, Eugene, you remember very well, and Chairman, you remember very well, everyone remembers very well, of when we would get those death notices in Iraq and Afghanistan, 2005, 2002, 2007, and you look at people who are around your own age, and you see them just, they're dead. Why? What did she die for? What was the purpose of this war that she gave her life for? And she was at a base in Jordan. We were told that the Iranian military's capabilities were done with. Somehow they managed to get a projectile across all of Iraq and into Jordan to kill a service member at 19 years old. Gas prices are up. The global economy is hurting from this. And now 17 service members have died and there's over 400 wounded. America is not safer. There is no, and we were much better off with the President Obama's plan to stop a nuclear weapon. Iran is emboldened, and our boys and girls are dying.
When I was in high school, my dad was in Iraq and Afghanistan, and I went to a school that had 90% of us, our parents were in the Army, and 80-something% of us had our parents deployed at the time. And we all had blue and silver stars for our parents, and we had gold stars for the kids that died, the parents that died. And I think about the knocks that they had to get there, for our friends who we had to talk to, and I cannot imagine something worse than getting that knock at the door, except getting the knock at the door and not knowing at all what they died for, not knowing at all why the President of the United States has not seen any reason to explain to the American people what he's doing and why he's doing it over and over and over again until people understand it.
I think that backdrop of the death of 3 U.S. soldiers while the president is yucking it up at FIFA, throwing bougie fundraisers for wannabe gubernatorial candidates, and that insensitivity that is a big part of Donald Trump's persona anyway. He's detached from the things that would, like you mentioned, Luke, the image, just her photo struck you. We have no sense of that from Donald Trump at any point in time, from the service members who came home, the bodies that came home at Dover, and he's standing there in a damn baseball cap with "Make America Great Again" on his damn head. That level of appreciation of the solemnity of the moment, where something like this happens, he gets that intel, Ned, and you think the president would go, you know what, fellas, I just can't. I got to focus on this. I've just sent these troops into harm's way, and 3 of them are no longer with us. That's on me. I got to take a moment for them. None of that.
Doesn't happen. Eugene, the story of you growing up reminded me of my own story. I was a freshman in college on 9/11. For all of my professional career, and I've almost always worked in the national security and foreign policy sphere, we've been engaged in these forever wars. And as I've had different positions across government, I've had an opportunity to help coordinate some of the responses to tragedies like this. And what is so striking to me about these 17, and according at least to what the Pentagon is now saying, maybe even 18 casualties, is to ask ourselves whether they were necessary in the first place. And I think the answer to that is patently no on 2 fronts. Number one, this was a reckless war to begin with. It was unwise and it was unnecessary. We never had to go into it in the first place. But number two, I think what may be underappreciated about all of this, when I was sitting in the White House or I was at the CIA or the State Department, before we undertook some sort of major operation, whether it was going after a major terrorist or even if we were just anticipating some sort of anti-American violence around the world, we would go to these extraordinary lengths to draw down American forces to the lowest possible number, not only to get the quantity down, but to make sure that our forces, to the extent we needed them in theater, were in hardened battle spaces, were safe, were as safe and secure as they could have been. And what we saw over the weekend, when at least some of these service members were killed in what sounds like a fairly unfortified location, location in Jordan. It sounds like this administration isn't doing that. And final point, this is about more so than what they have or have not done to protect these troops. It's about the honor they give them in death and injury. And the fact that the Pentagon is going to such great lengths to hide, to obfuscate, not to announce regularly casualties that they deem minor. Some 450 service members have been hurt in the course of these operations. Some 17 or maybe even 18 service members have been killed. And the fact that we're not seeing the honor accorded to these individuals, to me, that is just really startling.
It speaks volumes.
Yeah.